Hi everyone, it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you on this long-awaited webinar on PEFC Portugal. This is part of the PEFC public consultation webinar series, which we conduct in relation to the assessment of the PEFC systems. This one, as I mentioned, it's about PEFC Portugal and the Portuguese forest certification system. My name is Hubert Inheiser. I'm a technical officer at PEFC International, and it's my privilege to be your host today. So our agenda for today will be not that crowded. We have just 3 agenda items. I will first of all start with a brief introduction about PEFC International for those who are not that familiar with our framework. And then the main item will be on the Portuguese forest certification system, and I will invite our colleagues from PEFC Portugal to do that. And then at the very end, we will have times for questions and answers. So about the introduction, those who don't know, the PEFC acronym stands for Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification Systems. We are an alliance of independent national forest certification systems under the umbrella of PEFC International. These national forest certifications are all based on PEFC sustainability benchmark and international standards. This is an absolutely voluntary mechanism promoting sustainable forest management through independent third-party certification. We are very glad that we are the world's largest forest certification system and provider of 3/4 of the world's certified and sustainably managed timber. Here on this map, you can see our global coverage. And let's talk about the Portuguese forest certification system, which was submitted in May this year for assessment. These assessments are carried out by registered PEFC assessors. They are independent assessors. This assessment is not assigned yet to any assessor yet, but it will be done soon. The assessment includes a 60 days public consultation period. It's an international public consultation. I encourage everyone to take a look at the documentation of the complete Portuguese forest certification system. This international public consultation was opened today, and all stakeholders are invited to express their views until 2nd of September. These comments, which were submitted during the international public consultation, will be considered by the assessor during the assessment report. So therefore, again, we are very warmly welcome all stakeholders to take a look at the Portuguese documentation and submit their comments until 2nd of September. And now it's my pleasure that we have Paula and Raquel here with us from PEFC Portugal. I stopped sharing my screen and I will ask you to carry on. And just a kind reminder again, please mute your microphones during the presentation. Thank you so much. Paula, Raquel, the floor is yours.
Are you listening to me? Sorry, good morning.
I can hear you, Raquel, perfectly. But I can hear you.
Paula was speaking, but we didn't hear by the...
Okay. Are you listening to me already? No. I think I'm muted by the organization.
Hubert, did you mute Paula?
No, I did
No?
not. Paula is not muted. The microphone is turned on.
No, on her computer is turned off.
That's a different question.
She has two insights. One, she's mute, and in the other one, she's with the sound on.
Mhm.
Let's try. Is now, are you listening to me now?
Yes.
It's difficult to hear, but if everybody
Thank you very much,
remains silent, we can hear.
I
Yeah.
will just give you a few words of welcome, mostly as president of PEFC Portugal. And thank you very much, Hubert, for your opening words. First of all, I would like to welcome and thank everybody who is online for your interest and participation. Well, today is a very special day for PEFC Portugal. It's really the day that marks the beginning of this public consultation after a period of almost 3 years of intensive, very collaborative work that was done facing the reaching, presenting the work that we have developed. Raquel Martino has been leading several meetings in which over 70 entities have participated, and also special thanks for everybody representing these entities, these stakeholders in Portugal. It's been a lot of work, very intensive, but the good part is that it was very collaborative. So we think we are now in conditions of a very, the work that we have done represents well what we have in place, our forests, and what we need as a Portuguese forest certification system. So I will give the floor to Raquel now and wish you all a pleasant session. Thank you very much.
Good morning to all. Thanks to all for being here today. I am Raquel Martino, responsible for the Portuguese forest certification system and manager of PEFC process and trademarks on PEFC Portugal. So to know a little bit of our country and what we do in Portugal, I will just present a little bit of PEFC Portugal. The Portuguese forest certification system is the system created to establish the national certification demonstrating compliance with the highest standard for sustainable forest management. The Portuguese Forestry Sector Council, Conselho da Fileira Florestal Portuguesa in Portuguese, is the legal name of PEFC Portugal. Both are responsible for manager of the Portuguese forest certification system, which includes the Portuguese standard for SFM, known as Portuguese Standard 4406. PEFC Portugal aim is to provide consumers with guarantees that the certified products come from areas with sustainable forest management based on social, environmental, and economic principles, contributing to stimulate the potential for the continuous improvement of the forest resources. We believe that our mission will only be possible if we involve a large number of entities with the same motivation for the preservation of forests. We do so through projects, meetings, and training, collaborating with several entities in its initiatives that promote the visibility of PEFC and that contribute to the increase of PEFC certified sustainable forest management area. PEFC Portugal associate members are organizations that represents the different areas of Portuguese forest sector, being related to forest production, sustainable industry, research, management, and conservation. PEFC certification continues to increase in Portugal, growing in certified forest area as well as in number of chain of custody certificates. Today, in 2022, the perspective of growing remains. In COC is reflected in number of certificates, and in forest management, the number of members within the group certificate is increasing a lot. To understand our SFM standard and system, we need to know a little bit about our forest. Forest is the main land use in Portugal, 36% of the national territory. The main species are eucalyptus, maritime pine, and cork oak and holm oaks. These last two instances call it montados in Portuguese. Private forest ownership represents 84% of the Portuguese forest ownership. Only 2% belongs to the state. These figures place Portugal at the top of the European countries with the highest percentage of forest privately owned. Beside the environmental criteria, this also reflects on social aspects. Most of our forest is private and with very tiny areas, which requires a well-thinking management. The forestry sector contributes for 2% of the national gross domestic product. Social aspects are also linked with the economic criteria. For the high number of landowners and with the small size of forestry property, the goods produced in this way support not only the owner's life, as well as an important and integrated industrial natural resources-based chain. Forest is also responsible for many direct and indirect jobs. As key aspects of the Portuguese forest, we can highlight the long and well-established relationship between the forest and society. Afforestation programs, the promotion of multiple land use and fixing the population, and the forest legislation important to the forest planning. The definition of forest in Portugal already includes most of the possibilities for timber and non-timber materials subject to certification. There is diversity associated with trees outside forest systems. And so it was decided to include them in the Portuguese standard. One stop allows extending the impact of PEFC certification beyond the forest. Through PEFC certification in urban areas, the contribution of trees reinforce the wealth and the well-being of society, and the leadership and responsible management demonstrated by the administration can be verified and recognized. Also, very important nowadays, promote an additional natural solution to climate mitigation with forest certification. So, this is what TOF represents in Portugal, how they were classified, including what it is excluded from the forest definition. Now becomes possible to certify trees on agroforestry lands or trees in urban parks. It represents a new PEFC certification service to be developed by PEFC Portugal. Portugal has a wide range of legal framework, including in forestry. The Portuguese National Strategy for Forest aims to target and articulate within regional forest plans. PROF are national sectorial policy instruments important for management planning. They are also legislation for harvesting, afforestation, timber and non-timber product markets, biomass for energy, and among others. So now passing to the standard setting process, another important part to explain today. The Portuguese Quality Institute, IPQ, is the national standardization body responsible for the promotion of standardization activities through the creation of technical commissions. The Institute for Nature, Conservation and Forest is the Portuguese Forest Authority and is the sectoral standardization body responsible for coordinating the work of the technical commissions for the standardization of Sustainable Forest Management, TC 145. From now on, I will just say TC to be easier. Important to say, the Portuguese standard for PEFC SFM certification is the only forest standard within the national standardization system. The review of the Portuguese standard for PEFC SFM certification follows the operating rules of TC. These rules formed the framework for the development of the standardization activities. Regarding the national standardization rules, it is relevant to say that national public consultations are normally done within 30 days. However, our standard had a public consultation during 60 days to also comply with the requirements of PEFC Council. In seeking to ensure the range of all stakeholders' views, a huge effort was done on the process of mapping of stakeholders. For PEFC Portugal, it is important to have stakeholders with different interests and knowledge contributing to the Portuguese standard. Around 1,256 organizations received the announcement and invitation for the revision of our standard. And it should be noted that the number of participants in TC increased with this. This is the long process that we had followed along the revision. A long process highly involved and participated by stakeholders. The pandemic gave us quite some challenge, but never stopped our work. To outline some stages that demonstrate all the involvement that existed, there were created 4 working groups, created to the different teams that we have in the standard. Criteria indicators, management system, specifications for group and regional certification, and trees outside forest requirements. Very good discussions set the requirements that we have on the future standard. There was also a webcast that was created in partnership between PEFC Portugal and different stakeholders involved in the TC, and get also the participation of an international expert in the ISO standards. At the end, it was decided to adopt the high-level ISO structure and keep separate the annex for the specific requirements, the group requirements that had already exist, and the new and added annex for trees outside forest requirements. The pilot test for trees outside forest requirements was also possible to set regarding the interest of the stakeholders involved in the TC. That had a very fascinating case study. Now, about the structure and function of the Portuguese forest certification system. The Portuguese forest certification system was established so as to maximize the partnership between entities that are integrated in the Portuguese quality system. This system structure involves the participation of all entities with main competencies and roles in the scope of the Portuguese standard development, accreditation, and implementation. This system is managed by PEFC Portugal. Our rule, the rule of PEFC Portugal regarding the system identified, is fully collaborate with the national standardization body, sectoral standardization body, and accreditation body to ensure that the standard setting procedures and rules are in compliance with PEFC requirements. Initiate and conduct the revision process to review the SFM standard at appropriate discussions forums. Establish and maintain the framework of reference for the supervision, control, and revision of the system. Establish the rules of implementation of the sustainable forest management. On national reality, especially in the center and north of Portugal, the tiny size of the properties increased the efforts of the forest management. Group and regional certifications suits better on this case because on greater efficiency, we are implementing the technical support necessary to the forest management system. Related to the costs, there are more people to share the costs, as also the group certifications allow sampling. With that, it is possible to continue monitoring by internal audits and external verifications through the certification bodies regarding a sampling method. For the individual certificates in Portugal, they are held by major industrial landowners. So PEFC Portugal has fully adopted and subscribed the international COC standard. The relevant requirements were integrated in the Portuguese forest certification system, as also included in the Portuguese SFM standard, for example, regarding the requirements for sales of PEFC certified products. This is the list of the relevant supporting documents of the standard revision process submitted to PEFC Council, with the aim of harmonizing PEFC information and requirements in Portugal. The relevant requirements of PEFC COC standard for certificate holders and for certification bodies. This information was also integrated in the Portuguese forest certification system. About the Portuguese forest certification system revision. More notes. As you can see here, the Portuguese standard for PEFC certification, PEFC SFM certification, has already some revision history. All these revisions had counted with many stakeholders from the Portuguese forest sector regarding its knowledge and experience on the implementation of the SFM standard. The revision of the Portuguese standard had focused on validity and technical consistency of its content regarding the knowledge and experience available, compliance with the PEFC Council benchmark standards, new members and stakeholders' expectations, strategy guidelines for the development of new services and products, legislation, and continuous improvement. This revision is the result of a 5-year periodic review process. The revision of the system was conducted in a transparent way and with many participation, involving a wide range of stakeholders and provided opportunities for input at a national public consultation level. Changes happened on the review date regarding the new information of PEFC Council. All these dates were highly identified through the TC meetings. At the end, the deadline for submission of the system was on 14th of May of this year. At the end, this deadline was fully complied. This happy ending was possible due to high interest and participation of the stakeholders along TC meetings, as also the hard work that was done internally in PEFC Portugal. Remember some steps of this revision. At the end of October of 2019, was done the public announcement of the start of the review of the process with invitation to the stakeholders to engage the working group. The first TC meeting was almost at the end of that year. The election of the president of the subcommission 2, that is the PEFC SFM group within TC, was at the beginning of 2020. On May 2020, the working groups were established, the 4 working groups that I said previously, were established and worked until February 2022, long time ago, where the SFM standard was approved by consensus and sent to the national standardization body. Microsoft Teams ended up being a good tool, very useful to the participation of the stakeholders from all over the country and to share and keep the documents. Major changes overview. At the structural level, the new standard has adopted the ISO high-level structure, where included new definitions regarding the PEFC Council standards, taking into account the gap analysis previously done. Trees outside forest requirements were adopted, and it becomes possible to extend the PEFC certification beyond forest. So changes were more at the structural level, with new requirements and definitions and some improvements. As already said, Portugal has a wide range of legal framework, including in forestry. On these revisions, there was a common understanding within the working group to create a guiding section of the relevant information that forest management systems need to be aware and comply. So that's it. I hope to see you soon on forest or in top PEFC certified areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raquel, for the excellent presentation. I think you can stop sharing the screen now. Maybe we might come back to that, but I think for the moment it's perfectly fine. And now I would like to ask if anybody would have any clarification questions for Raquel. Well, until the participants gather their throats, maybe what I can ask is that I was very interested to listen more about these categories you identified for the TUF, which is certainly a new element to the not only the Portuguese system but the PEFC in general. And I just wanted to ask that what do you think that what would be the most the highest area which would be the interest when this would come to implementation?
I didn't, sorry, I was trying to have a little help on here in the computer. Can you repeat?
That's okay.
No,
I was only asking that I think it's very interesting the way how you display the categories of the trees outside forest,
okay.
What you plan to implement the requirements. And my question was that, do you have an indication already, either from stakeholders or from the pilot testing, that what would be the most interesting areas where this would be expected to be implemented?
As I said, the most of our situations. So for TOF, the main aspects that are relevant and maybe in future can be certified are urban parks and some specific situations of isolated trees or forestry trees that are in agroforest lands. So there are very specific cases, but gets the possibility of the PEFC certification beyond the forest. So it is very good anyway.
Thank you. No, that's certainly interesting. I'm looking forward to hear more about that later on the assessment process. In the meantime, do any of the participants have maybe any questions for Raquel? Seems to be not the case. It just proves the point that it was a well-structured presentation and there were a lot of information available. As a closing words, thank you very much again, Paula and Raquel, for being with us today and for all the participants. A kind reminder that until 2nd of September, the public case consultation is open for all the stakeholders who would like to view and comment on the Portuguese forest system. And I hope to see you on another webinar, maybe for another country.
Yeah. Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.